Hello everyone and welcome back to TV Medic. I'm Chuck, and today we'll be looking at what EMS can learn from the aviation industry. There are two techniques that airline pilots use to enhance safety and share knowledge about the critical phases of flight. These two techniques are adaptable to the cockpit, if you will, of an ambulance. The first is the sterile cockpit rule, which forbids any unnecessary actions or conversations from taking place in the aircraft during the most critical parts of flight, which are takeoff, then the approach to an airport, and landing. In EMS, our most critical phase of flight is typically the lights and siren response. Translating the sterile cockpit to an ambulance might have the crew limiting their conversation and duties. The EMS co-pilot, the passenger, would be responsible for all radio communications, obtaining directions to the call, and relaying them to the driver, and also calling clear right at intersections or alerting to other traffic safety issues. It is vital that at this time the crew focuses on the call, driving the ambulance and not being distracted by each other, ride-alongs, or student passengers. Any member of the crew should be able to call for a sterile cockpit during a response, especially when the conversation turns into complaining about management, what a crappy day it's been, or what to have to eat when the call is over. It's a polite way to tell your partner to shut up and focus. It's not a new idea. The EMS law firm of Page, Wolfberg, and Worth wrote in 2015 that EMS services should consider making the sterile cockpit rule part of their distracted driving policies. The second technique is the approach briefing. This is what an approach briefing is like on an aircraft.
And then finally, it's going to be a visual for runway 26 right, backed up by the ILS plate. And I plan to clear the runway at Mike 4 intersection. Any questions?
No questions, sir.
The approach briefing adapted for EMS could be a short version of the protocol that they anticipate on using. For an allergic reaction call, the medic could brief his partner on the most critical parts of the protocol. The conversation could go something like this. If the patient is wheezing and in severe respiratory distress, I need you to do basic airway management and ventilate. If needed, you apply O2 while I give a 0.3 milligram IM injection of epinephrine. If the patient is hypotensive, I'll initiate an IV and start a fluid infusion. That may be followed by 50 milligrams of diphenhydramine IV push. If the patient is wheezing, we'll give a nebulized bronchodilator. I need you to spike a bag and set up the nebulizer. Any questions on the treatment or how to set up the gear? Ideally, the paramedic or senior member of the crew would be the passenger and conduct the approach briefing. It would be short and to the point so the driver isn't distracted. I can hear you groaning now. Why do that when we've run this call hundreds of times? We've never lost a patient to anaphylaxis. The main reason you should do it is that success breeds complacency and complacency breeds failure. That's why pilots conduct a briefing every flight, even if it's the 6th approach of the day at the pilot's home airport. A plan of action is always verbalized and briefed on an aircraft. One of the best college basketball coaches in history, Don Meyer, has a quote that transcends sports. Complacency is the forerunner of mediocrity. You can never work too hard on attitudes, effort, and technique. Focusing on doing the right things at the right time brings results. Meyer finished his long life as one of the winningest coaches in NCAA history, acquiring 923 wins throughout his coaching career. And the spaced repetition of doing this over and over again aids in learning. It increases automaticity. When you first learn a new skill, it takes a lot of energy and brain power to execute that skill. But your brain is wired for efficiency. Skills that you repeat over and over get moved to a different part of the brain where you don't have to consciously think about executing that skill. The more you repeat it, the less you think about it. The subconscious takes over and the skill becomes automatic. So as you brief the same call over and over, your less experienced crew members will perform better. It will prevent those blank stares from newly minted EMTs that telegraph, "I don't know what to do, help me." Think about incorporating an approach briefing into your calls. which might inspire a trend and improve the response culture of EMS. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, and tell a friend or colleague to give the video a look. Respond effectively, and see you in the next video.